G'day guys, today we're taking a look at the Powkiddy V90. This is currently the cheapest SP style clamshell you can buy. I paid around $45 Australian delivered, including GST on AliExpress, but they are around $70 to $75 Australian on eBay. Let's take a look at what you get in the box. So immediately we're greeted with a small business card of some kind. It's got Chinese on one side, and the other side it says to make sure you shut the system down. I have read about this. Apparently, if you just power off the system while you're in a game, it can corrupt the SD card. We also have the handheld itself, which is wrapped in a nice soft bag. Under the tray, we get our charging cable, USB-A to USB-C, and a small manual. The handheld itself is a little bit smaller than a standard GBA SP. So you can see, very slightly smaller, but they do weigh about the same. And you can see they do have a very similar active screen area. Taking a look around the device, there's not much on the top, just a small Powkiddy logo. On the left hand side we have our analog volume wheel. On the right hand side we have our power switch and our single micro SD slot. It does boot from this. On the front we have our headphone socket and our USB-C charge port. On the back we have our very small L1, L2, R1, R2 buttons, as well as a hole for your lanyard strap if you wanted to use one. And on the back we have our battery cover. Removing the cover, we can see it is a standard Nokia BL5C battery. These are super cheap and easy to replace when it eventually does fail. As far as specs go, it's got a 3-inch 320 by 240 IPS display, an ARM V9 CPU, and an unknown amount of RAM. I wasn't able to find much about the CPU and RAM online, even on the official websites. They just don't mention it. I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much what the specs are. What matters is its performance. Let's power it on and take a look at the stock OS. It does boot fairly quickly, around 5 seconds as you can see. That is definitely a positive. So we'll start off with the Apps tab. We have Bard, which is a text reader. I don't have any text files on there. To quit, just press select. We have File Commander, just a file manager, and MP3 player. It does come with 3 built-in songs. 2 are Asian, it looks like, and 1 is Lady Gaga's Just Dance. So that is interesting. To quit, it is start and select. Next we have M Player, which is a movie player. Doesn't seem to be any included movie files though, so we'll definitely copy some to that a bit later and see how well that plays. We have WizWrite, which is a text editor, so you can actually write on this. We'll go new. You can press start to bring up the little key helper. Now entering text is quite interesting. Use the D-pad to highlight the region you want, and you use the A, B, X and Y buttons to select the corresponding letter. Unfortunately, they aren't lined up to the correct buttons, so you would expect X to give you the comma, but instead it gives you A. You'd expect A to give you C, instead A gives you B. B gives you C, and Y will give you the comma. So it's a little bit off, but it does work. You can press the little button up here to bring up the main menu, and just go down to quit to exit. Next we have WQX, not too sure what that is. Oh, this is a little weird organizer. This is very strange. It's sort of like an old pocket organizer that you'd see in the 90s. So here it is here. Very, very weird. Pressing the little menu button does change the screen you're on. And here's the little navigation. I'm not too sure how to use this. It is very strange. It's mostly in Chinese. We'll go power, which should quit. There we go. So going to power and pressing B does exit. That is a weird one. And we have Explorer, which is just another file explorer. You can use R1 and L1 to toggle between the different menus. So the next menu is all of our available game systems. So everything it can emulate. So pressing it once more takes us to the options area. Here you got settings, themes, log viewer for any error logs, about, and how to safely shut it down. Again, the little card included did mention that you should use this power down button, but because there is a physical power switch, you'd press this and then once it's shut down, flick the switch off. A little bit tedious. Taking a look at settings, there's very little here. You got date, time, language, the battery profile, which is interesting. So currently it's at the Nokia battery BL5B, or you've got linear. I guess this is the discharge curve. So for a more accurate battery, you'd do BL5B, just because how lithium works. Not much else here. CPU settings, you can overclock it. We won't do that just yet, I don't want to break it. And reset settings. Press B to go back. Skin is our themes, as mentioned, so it does change it on the fly. There are quite a few. I do prefer default. You can change all the theme settings as well. Going through the included games lists, I noticed that some of the more popular ones were missing. For example, there's no Donkey Kong Country at all, which is a bit disappointing. If we go down to PlayStation 1, there's very few on here, which is not surprising. It is a small SD card. But again, these all seem to be fairly low-end games. So I think what we'll do is we'll power off the system, pop the SD card in our computer, copy a few more test games to it, as well as some movies so we can test the built-in media player. Again, to shut down, we'll do it properly, according to the little card inside. Just go to the options menu, go down to power, and press A to power off. You'll see the screen turns off. That's pretty much it. Just flick the power switch off. We're over on our Windows 10 PC now, and I'm just going to pop the SD card into my cheap little SD reader, and we'll pop it into the computer. Now, as always, if it asks you to format, make sure you click cancel. We'll just press escape. Quite a few partitions showed up. We've got E and F, which are obviously Linux partitions since we can't access them in Windows. We've got our boot drive, G drive. Quite a small partition. Only 3 visible files on here. Not too much. And it looks like our main drive, which is Q90. H drive for us, it's about 14 gig. This seems to be the main one. So I'm not too sure what the boot partition is. Maybe that is just a bootloader, and then it chains the main files off the Q90 partition. There does seem to be a kernel folder, and inside there are 2 files. There is quite a few folders on here. The main one we're interested in is media and ROMs. We'll go to media, it's empty. Take a look at ROMs, and here's all our built-in systems. So PlayStation. So this is where we would copy our games. These are the PlayStation games. They're all PPB, which is interesting. Go to the music folder, and there's actually 5 music files, but only 3 showed up, which is a bit strange. Not too sure why that is. Looking in the master system folder, they are all zipped. So some systems do support zips. We'll take a look at disk management and see how many hidden partitions there are. So disk 2 looks to be the SD card. You can see we do have 4 main partitions, which we did see in Windows. 2 were unable to be accessed in Windows, but they did show up. And we do have a very small unallocated sector at the very end. Nothing too interesting here. I think we'll copy a few test files over, and we'll pop it back into our V90. So we're back on our V90 now. I have copied a few test files over. Something else I forgot to mention is the screen does open to 2 main angles. So you can hear 2 clicks. So we'll close it. And when you open it slowly, there's the first click. So that's the first setting at once, and you can click it again to the second setting. If you push it after this, it does put quite a lot of stress on the hinge, and it most likely will crack. So remember not to open it too far. We'll start off with a built-in movie player, M player. We'll see if any of our files work. So here they are here. I did just copy it to the media folder on the Q90 partition. We've got H.264 1080, Xvid 1080, and Xvid 480. We'll start off with H.264 1080. There was a lot of text on the screen, and we just have a black screen. So 1080, H.264, MP4, no good. See if I can quit out. I did end up power cycling it to get out of the failed movie. I think next we'll try Xvid 1080. In the AVI container. Got a lot less errors this time, which is good. Still just have a black screen though. So Xvid 1080 also too much for it. Hopefully the Xvid 480 should work. Xvid is quite an easy codec to decode, even for older devices, so hopefully we do get something. It is playing, it is lagging though. Left and right does skip, which is good. It doesn't seem to be full speed. A little bit choppy. That is disappointing. Something else worth noting is although there is a physical volume wheel, there is also a software volume. Inside a game, if you hold select and press A, it does increase the software volume. And if you hold select and press B, it does decrease it. So if you have been playing a game and all of a sudden your volume is ultra quiet, that is most likely the culprit. Your speakers haven't failed. Just go back into any game, hold select and press A a bunch of times to go back to max volume. Let's try it a few systems and see how well it actually handles emulation. We'll skip Game Boy, we'll go straight to Game Boy Color. We'll do Mega Man Extreme. It loaded instantly, which is awesome. Does run full speed, no issues there. Pressing the little menu button should bring up the menu, and it does. You can save and load states here. Very limited options. We'll go to options. You can show frames a second, and you can change the scaling. I've got it set to full screen, but you can also do 1.6 times and none. We'll just see what 1.6 looks like. Go back to return. So it does have a little bezel, which is quite neat. We'll go back to none. And none's even smaller. So not ideal, but I guess if you do prefer integer scaling, that is an option on this little handheld. Although the screen is quite small, I would recommend full screen stretched, non-integer. We'll try some Game Boy Advanced. We'll try Donkey Kong Country 2, which is quite hard to emulate on these lower end consoles, so the GB300 and SF2000 cannot play DKC2 Game Boy Advanced. It is incredibly slow and unplayable, so we'll see how well it does here. There is a very small amount of slowdown, but it is way better than the SF2000 GB300s. I would say this is definitely playable, but far from perfect. We'll see what the menu button does in this game. So here's our basic menu. Got graphics and sound options. So again, scaling, full screen, unscaled, scaled, and full screen. Screen filtering. It says if you turn filtering on, it does provide a smoother image at the cost of being blurry. So if you find the games don't look quite right, try turning that off. Frame skip is set to automatic 4, and you can enable and disable the audio. So pretty basic settings. You obviously got load and save states. You can configure the gamepad. There is a mean little message at the top of this screen. I'm guessing the dev was quite annoyed at people constantly requesting this feature, so they added it in with a nasty little message. But you do have limited button mapping here. You've got cheats menu, I'm guessing Game Shark. That's pretty much it for this little menu. I'm expecting all the lower end 8-bit systems to run fine, so we'll skip straight to SNES, or Super Famicom as it's called on here. We'll try our DKC2 we copied over. This also seems to run about the same as the Game Boy Advance version. Seems like it's a little bit better than the SF2000 GB300, but otherwise pretty much the same. You'll notice it's not quite full screen, so we'll press the little menu option, see what we can do. Reset, save and load state, change the save slot, enable or disable frame rate, transparencies, not too sure what that does. We'll turn it on, see what happens. Not much really happened, so I'm not too sure what that setting does. Full screen. It's set to off, so that's very limited scaling. I'll turn it on, see what it looks like. I prefer it full screen just because you get the, it is quite a small screen anyway. It doesn't seem to look as good as integer scaled, I guess. We'll turn it back off. So there's the two options there, very limited. Frame skip set to auto. It definitely is skipping. Don't know if you can tell, it was slightly choppy. Sound rate, credits, and exit. Next we'll try some PS1. We'll try Mega Man 8 or Rockman 8 as it's here, Japanese version. The intro video is quite laggy. It's actually not that bad. It seems to run about as well as Game Boy Advanced and Super Nintendo. So at least for Mega Man 8, definitely playable, but not perfect. I would like to try some more popular games in the future. Pressing the menu button brings up our limited menu once again. The colors in the background do go a bit funny, not too sure what that's about. So again, you can resume, save and load state, reset the game, load a different image. I'm not too sure if this is for multi-CD games or not. I'm assuming that's what you would use that option for. Got options, so frame skip, it's actually set to 1, which is interesting. Region, display, so the different scales, so nothing too fancy there. Our BIOS plugins, using the HLE BIOS, advanced, you can show all of the metrics on screen. Save and load config files. Controls, you can remap the controls, which is definitely handy. Extra stuff, again, change the image, run exe, memory card manager, and load cheats. So pretty limited there, but it does seem to have all the major features covered. We'll take a look at some ports next. We got, looks like Doom, and there's no WADs. So you would have to copy your own WAD files over to this. It's a shame it wasn't included. Even the shareware one would have been good. They're very small, only a meg or two, so not too sure why they skipped that. The old Digger game from DOS. That is pretty cool. I played a lot of this back in the day. I can't turn the volume up because copyright, but it is playing Hot Butter Popcorn in the background. We'll try Quake 1. So Quake 1 seems fine as well. It is a little bit hard to control. when it's sitting flat. I did try a little bit of this off camera, and it is definitely playable. The screen's very dark on camera. It's not too bad in person. So Quake definitely works. To exit out, you'd have to press select, bring up the main menu, and just go quit. We'll finish off with some Wolfenstein 3D, another classic. Nice and fast. Yeah, Wolf 3D seems to run fine. Overall, it's not that bad. The stock interface does remind me a lot of the old Dingu consoles. Very, very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if it is based on that. These speakers on this do sound absolutely terrible, very, very tinny. If you put your thumbs or palms over the speaker grills, it does improve it a fair bit. Just adds a little bit of bass. So maybe a piece of tape, although you would lose volume, it would sound a lot better. There is a headphone slot as mentioned, so that's another option. SNES, Game Boy Advanced, and PlayStation 1 weren't perfect, but for the games I tested, it was still playable. As far as performance goes, it's a little bit better than the GB300 SF2000s, but obviously nowhere near as good as something like the R36S, which is a little bit cheaper. There is custom firmware available for this, which apparently greatly improves performance across the board, so we'll definitely try that in a future video. For $45, I'm not too upset. It is a very convenient form factor. It's quite comfortable to hold. The L and R buttons are a little bit hard to press while holding it normally, but I had the same issue on the real GBASP anyway. You wouldn't want to play any games that require L and R for long periods of time. I think that'll do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.